Hello, welcome back to the CQ Simple certification training on the Nimbus platform and the Simply Hosted platform. We are continuing to work our way through the Quick Setup module. The Quick Setup module is designed, you have the phone system, you have the Nimbus either in a box or in the cloud, and you just want to quick get some calls coming in and out just with minimal programming. So far we've gone through creating different types of extensions, virtual, PJSIP. We talked about how to do trunks, inbound, outbound routes. At this point, I'd like to briefly say, let's get a phone actually registered. So if you want to make or take a phone call, it would be helpful to have a phone registered to your phone system. This method will work for any type of phone, whether it's a CQ phone or a third-party phone like a Yealink or a Grandstream. This method will also work with paging adapters. In addition, we'll cover how to do system recordings, how to use that phone to then create a auto attendant message, a greeting that a person hears when they call in and your business is closed or open. So we'll do all of that. And at that point, once we finish this module, you should have a phone registered, albeit manually, and calls going in and out of your phone system. And at that point, you're ready to move on to the more complicated setup regarding holidays and time conditions and business hours. So let's first start with just how do we get a phone registered to the phone system? What's the information we need to do that? So if we go to Applications and we click on Extensions, first step obviously is to make all of your extensions. We will assume at this point that all the extensions are made, even though we only have one extension. Virtual extensions, remember, are just mailboxes. There's no device. You cannot register a device to a virtual mailbox. So in this case, we only have one phone, and we would like to, we have one extension, and we would like to register a phone, a physical desk phone, so it can be extension 101. So if I go ahead and I click the Edit button, I'm going to see a little bit of information. First of all, you see the extension number. That's going to be key. I also see what type of technology is this. So this is a PJSIP extension, and it tells me what port. That will also be key. So we're using port 5300 UDP. That is going to be necessary as we manually program a phone to talk to the phone system. And then the other piece of information we need is the IP of the phone system. So there it is, 216.128.177.28. If you're working with a premise phone system, this would be the IP of the system on the network, the local IP. If you're programming a remote phone, you would use the public IP. So you got to kind of think about how that phone is going to talk to the phone system. And then you've got this right here. This is the secret. If you hover over it, you can see it there. I would advise that not to be shortened or changed for security reasons. So how do we take this information and put it into a phone? So first, plug your phone in and find the IP of that phone. So this is going to be different based on your model. I just happen to have a test CQ phone here. So if I press the check mark twice, I'm going to see the IP address of the phone. So 192.168.0.100. And you should be greeted with a username and a password at this point. Simply type this in, and you'll get something that looks like this for the CQ phone. I'll walk you through it, and this is going to be very similar to what you would do on a Yealink or a Grandstream or a different type of a phone if you're using something else. So the CQ phones has two different locations you go. First you go to Profile. In the profile you put in your primary SIP server. So this is going to be the IP address of the phone system. That's your SIP server. So I'm going to come back here. This is in the cloud. So I'm going to put this in here and get rid of the HTTPs. This is also where you can put in a failover SIP server. If it's doing a backup, in this case we're just going to use one. This is also where you put in the port. So by default it's going to it's not going to put it here, but by default it's assuming 5060. Now if you remember, we are using 5300. So you want to come back in here, do :5300. And this will be similar for your other third-party phones. Now, if the port is 5060, which it could be, and like I said, you'll see that here, then you don't need to do :5060. That's the default assumed port. All right, we're going to go ahead and save this. Okay, that's step one. Then we're going to go to account, and we've got some information here. You can see the red was you have to have. So the label, doesn't matter what the label is. You can just put the name in here if you'd like. Now the SIP user ID is the extension number, so 101. So anytime you see ID, user ID, you want to go extension number. So we've got SIP user ID and authenticate ID, both of those are 101. And authenticate password, that is your secret. So you just want to copy that. I'm going to go ahead and apply this. I think I applied previously in a previous module. I'm going to save it. You don't have to change that local port. I know it says 5060. That's fine. You can leave it. And you can give it a name if you want. So wherever you see the ID, user ID, that's the extension number. When you see the password, the SIP password, that is the secret. All right. And then if you want, for voicemail ID, since you're programming this phone manually, *97. One thing to note is the preferred route is to provision the phones. Provisioning the phones is using a module, which we'll cover later, to create templates, and then the phones take those templates. And then in that process, many of the settings of the phones are changed for you. In this case, this is kind of the quick and dirty. I need to get a phone registered to the phone system. So you're not going to have every setting changed in this process. You're just trying to get a phone on there so a user can make and take a phone call. So we'll go ahead and hit save. All right, so if we take a look here of our extension, right, you can see the account status, 101 at the address, and it's registered. Right. All that means is that it presented the credentials, the username, and the password correctly to the SIP server, and then the SIP server said, okay, you're good. So if I come back to home, you can see that it says registered. If you want to see in the phone system, how can you tell in the phone system if a phone is registered? If you go to reports, *info, you see that now our icon is green, indicating that it's registered. And then if we go over here to the expansion and click on peers, you can see we have extension 101. It tells you the IP that phone is coming from, and then it tells you that it's available, and it gives you a kind of a latency time, 53 milliseconds between the phone system and the phone. So there's a couple different places you can check to see if your phone is registered. Obviously, number one, the phone will tell you itself if it's registered. It could say register failed. For example, if it can't get to the phone system, if you've got a remote phone and you're trying to get to a premise Nimbus, you would need to make sure that this port, we talked about this in a previous module, port 5300 UDP is forwarded to the phone system. So now you've got a phone registered. At this point, you could make a phone call on it. This phone would ring if a phone call came to it. But one thing this does allow you to do is to create a system recording. So a system recording is all sorts of things. It's not a voicemail greeting, so those are separate. But a system recording could be the greeting, thanks for calling, press 1 or press 2, like a typical IVR message. It could be, this call is being recorded. It could be, we're closed for lunch, please call back tomorrow. Those are all different examples of system recordings. We're closed for Christmas. Now that you have a phone registered, you can actually create them. Let me show you how to create that now that you have a phone registered. And I should say, before I move on, I gave you an example for a CQ phone. This will be almost the exact same for a third-party phone. Put in your extension number, put in the secret, and then be sure, where it asks you for your SIP server, if your port is not 5060, you add that to the end, colon, whatever the port tells you, 5300, and it tells you back in the extension. If we go back to extension 101, and we'll cover this in a future module, you can change that. It doesn't have to be 5300 for PJ-SIP. That's just out of the box. You can change that if you want. All right, so let's talk about how can we use this phone to create a system recording now. So under Admin, you'll see System Recordings, and you can see it's blank because we have not created any system recordings. So we're going to go ahead and hit Add Recording. And we're going to give it a name. Let's just call it Closed Message. If you want to give it a description, you have. It doesn't. If you already have a recording from a previous phone system, you can press Browse and you can upload it from your computer. If you are creating this from the phone itself, if you need to record a new message, then just bypass that area. And then you come to this section right here, Record Over Extension. So you're going to type in the extension that you are sitting by. So 101 is the one that we just programmed. And you're going to press Call. The phone is going to ring. The person's going to pick up. It's going to be a very quick beep, and it's just going to start recording. It doesn't matter if you get it right or you get it wrong the first time. Just say something, record something, even if it's not perfect, and then hang up. Or you can press pound. Both of those will stop the recordings. It's very easy to change it after you have created the message. So give it a name. Type in the extension of the phone that you're going to record it on. So we only have one phone, 101, so we'll type in 101, and then you're going to hit Call, and you'll see what happens here. So the phone's ringing. I hit Answer. I hear the beep is, you might not even hear the beep. It's going to be very fast. You're just going to record what you want to say. Thanks for calling. We're closed. Call back during business hours. If you'd like to leave a message, press 1. Thanks. Have a great day. And then you can either hang up or press the pound key. Okay. When you hang up or press the pound key, this box will change and it will ask for a name. So we'll call this Closed IVR or Closed Message. It doesn't have to be the same as the first name, but you can't have two messages with the same name. So we'll hit Save. So after you type in a name, you'll see you've got a saved option here. So we'll save it. You can see it goes above. Once again, if it's not right the first time, not a big deal. Right here, you're going to see Link to Feature Code. Go ahead and hit Yes there. And then hit Submit. It'll just tell you it's going to take a long time. It's not going to take that long. Okay, now it's done. I'm going to go ahead and hit Apply. So we've just created our first system recording. Once again, this is not where you do voicemail ingredients. That's a different location. This is just system messages, system recordings. Once we've saved this, we're going to go back into it, and I want to show you how the user can then change this. They may not get it right the first time. It's pretty rare that somebody gets it right the first time unless they've taken the time to actually type it out. So if you go back to Close Message and clicked on the Edit pencil, you can see down at the bottom we have a feature code, *291. So any user can now dial *291. It will play the message for them, so it kind of reminds them, hey, this is your message. And then it'll walk them through how to change it. It'll tell them what buttons to press. And eventually they will save it again. So you can even put a password on it if you don't want other people to change it. Some people put this as a BLF key on their phone and call it the holiday message. And so they can press that when they want to change their holiday message. One thing to note as you're making your system recordings, for the system to actually do what you're telling the customer to do, that is further programming. So just because the system recording says, press 1 for voicemail, if the programming doesn't match that, it's not going to happen. So this is just a recording, and then you can provide this code to the customer, and they can dial that from any office phone, *291. It'll play the message back to them, and then it will walk them through how to change it on that phone. And they can do that as many times as they want until they get a greeting that they're happy with. All right, so that is the quick way to get a phone programmed. That is a quick way to then use that phone once it's registered with the phone system, and I showed you how to see if it's registered or not. How to then use that phone to create various greetings, open, closed, lunch, holidays, recordings, all that sort of thing. And you can create as many of these as you want, and each of them will receive their own feature code, which the user can change if you provide that feature code to them.